So we've seen Pachysandra terminalis. I just wanted you to see the variegated version, Pachysandra terminalis variegata, and that's in the Buxaceae, also a very shade-loving plant. Photinia ceratifolia, Taiwanese Photinia. Sometimes you'll see this called Chinese Photinia. It's in the Rosaceae. It's a tree or shrub up to 30 feet tall. The leaves are alternate and simple. They're about 4 to 6 inches long. They're lanceolate to oblong. The thing that sets it apart from some of the other Photinias is this very finely serrated leaf. And like many of the Photinias, the new growth is reddish, and the petiole is pubescent, which means a little bit hairy. The white flowers are in panicles. It likes sun to shade, and it's very drought tolerant. So you can see it gets quite large and covered with blossoms, and you can see the new growth on the right here is red. Here's a close-up of the flower clusters before they've opened. Photinia floribunda, mountain pieris, ericaceae of course, 3 to 4 feet tall, has about an equal spread. It's very rounded. The leaves are 1 to 3 inches long, ½ an inch to 1 inch wide. The leaf margins are ciliate, which means they've got fine hairs on them, and it likes part shade. This one's pretty difficult to transplant and establish. It's not one of our hardier pierises. It's prone to root rot if you don't have excellent drainage. Okay, here's a close-up, and you can see the flower clusters are actually a little more upright than most of the pieris we have tend to droop. Pieris ex forest flame, also ericaceae, 4 to 7 feet by 4 to 7 feet. Blooms March to April. The new foliage comes out this flame red, which will fade to a creamy pink and then green. And some of the problems it gets are Phytophthora, which is a crown or root rot, nematodes, mites, scale and leaf spots. It likes sun to part shade but can tolerate some deep shade. So on the right you've got the flowers. Here's that bright red growth, but as you can see, as time goes on the left, it is more of a creamy red color. Pieris japonica variegata, ericaceae, 3 to 5 feet tall, equal spread. White margins, you may see a little bit of a pinkish hue around the margins in spring. This isn't as prolific a bloomer as the species, but it's really nice foliage, so many people grow it for the foliage. It may need fertilization to keep the green portion of the leaf green. It may get yellowish leaves if it doesn't get enough fertilization. And here's what it looks like in bloom. Plioblastus pygmaeus, sasa or dwarf bamboo, is in the Poaceae. Pretty short, only up to 1.5 feet tall and a little bit wider. It is a running bamboo, runs by rhizomes. Leaves are palm-shaped. The margins are serrated. These leaves can be up to 5 inches long. It likes part shade to full shade. Very drought tolerant and can grow near black walnut. Black walnut is allelopathic. It puts out a chemical called juglone. It prevents other species from growing near it. This is a very invasive plant, so probably not a good one to plant. And you want to avoid fertilization because that just makes it more aggressive. Okay, here's some other pictures of the foliage. Rhododendron, the Honorable Jean Marie de Montague. We saw this in the nursery, and we were talking about this last week in class about what do you call this taco shape? Well, Oregon State calls it V-shaped. So it's an ericaceae, 5 feet tall, dark green leaves, this V-shaped look, and then the flowers are very bright red with 10 flowers per truss. And there's a section at the Arboretum where they've got many cultivars related to this plant. They've done a lot of hybridization as well, so you might want to take a look at that. It's on Azalea Way. Rhododendron unique, also ericaceae, 4 feet tall. The leaves are elliptic to obovate. And then they usually have this 1 millimeter point called a mucro. I'll show you that on the next slide. Flower buds are pink, red, and then apricot. You can have 14 flowers per cluster. It can deal with sun to part shade, which is a little bit different than some of our rhododendrons. So here's the cream color flower. It has an apricot bud right before it opens, and then it's red as it's closed. And if you look at this leaf on the right, it's dark green up above, light green below, and then it's got this mucro at the tip. Thymus vulgaris, common thyme. It's in the Lamiaceae, gets up to 12 inches tall. The leaves are up to ½ inch long. They have fine hairs on them. The leaves are very fragrant. They have purple to white flowers. This is in late spring to early summer. And if you cut it back regularly, you can prevent it from getting too woody. It's hard to use as an herb when it's too woody. Needs full sun and excellent drainage. Okay, so here's on the left, you can see it's a little more hairy. Here's another close-up on the right. This is the more herbaceous stems. Vaccinium vitis idea, lingonberry or partridge berry. Ericaceae, this is the lingonberry that you make Swedish pancakes with. There used to be a restaurant, some of you that have been around long enough, called Scandies in Ballard that served Swedish pancakes with lingonberries. Anyway, Ericaceae, 6 to 12 inches tall, has underground runners. It's notched at the apex. I'll show you what that looks like. The upper portions of the leaves are green. The lower has brown glands. Typical Ericaceae flowers, these urn-shaped flowers. The fruit is dark red and edible. It likes boggy conditions as long as it gets sun, and that includes having peaty soil. Sun to part shade. Okay, so on the left you see a notched leaf. There's the flowers and the fruit, and then comparing it to kinnikinick, because that might be the one that might look similar to it, and kinnikinick does not have that notch. And here are the glands on the underside. And then we have Viburnum ex Burkwoodii, or Burkwood viburnum, Adoxaceae. It's semi-evergreen, so it's right now it's going through color change. I saw it at Center for Urban Horticulture, and it was almost completely defoliated, so I think it depends on what your exposure is. 8 to 12 feet tall, has opposite leaves. They're heart-shaped. They're sparsely toothed. You're going to have a shiny green upper portion and then gray to brown below, and it'll feel like sandpaper. Flowers start as pink and then become white, and it likes sun to part shade. So here's the flower clusters. You can see they're pink, and then as they open, they're white. And then here are the leaves, glossy on top, and lighter colored and rough on the underside. And this is the fall color.